Well, how do, folks? Hope everybody's doing well. I had to send the girls out. I have two boxers. I had to ask my wife to help me because Bailey would try to make her way up these steps, try to get in this room with me. And you'd be sniffing, or she'd be sniffing around the door, rather, trying to get in here with me and crying. So, apologize for the minute or so tardiness. But anyway, I don't think this is going to go too long, but I was going to do a thread on Twitter. I was like, yeah, I just feel like talking. I sat pretty much in one place all day today, working with my son, trying to coach him along, encourage him, and try to help him get beyond the concerns that he has. But if you're new to following me, if you're new to what it is I do and how I teach and what I'm presently working with, I have a son that just graduated homeschool. He's 18, freshly minted as a young man. And he is trying very hard to overcome the things I was trying to prevent him from forming. And it's many of the things I tell you all in the very boring parts of the videos or the majority of the Twitter spaces. It's like mindset and psychology and the things that you don't realize are going to be impactful, the things that are going to be detrimental. There's going to be the things that make it or break it for you. And many times we like to think that the markets will yield its bounty to us simply because we have a specific indicator or approach to looking at the markets, and or we follow somebody that's really hot at the moment. And then when you step out there and you're in that arena and you don't have any real protection except for risk management and your self-control. My son tried very hard to do what he thought was very equivalent to a video game. Try to get in there, try to do, if my count is correct, based on what he was using, he tried 7 times to pass a top step combine. And he wasn't trying to adhere to any of the things I outlined for him, which is very frustrating. But I guess you're gonna do these things, especially as young men. You're gonna rush into it, and he wants to be able to show me that I can do it, Dad. Watch, I'll do it my way, and his way didn't work. So we sat down over the weekend, and I told him, I said, listen, are you ready to really sit down and do this the right way? It's going to be boring, and you want it to be boring. His number one concern is he's afraid now to push the button to get in. And I said, well, you're in good company, because that's exactly how it was for me. I was very, very scared to get into it in the beginning. In 1992, I had no idea what the hell I was doing, but I was really inspired to learn. But the approaches to learning how to trade and how to time an entry, if you really look at all the books and manuscripts and things that were taught back then, they really just glossed over it. It was very vague. I mean, they might show you things in a book, like this is what it looks like, but that's the benefit of hindsight. And it's very difficult to try to communicate that in a static picture. And that's why it's important for you as a student to tape read and watch price and get a feel for what it's doing. When you feel this unction in you that it's going to move higher or it's going to move lower, and then you watch it sit still for another 20 minutes before it does the opposite what you expected. That's a learning experience. It's easy to think that you've learned something from me or someone else, or use some kind of automated, you know, I don't know what you would call it, something that would be not discretionary. And it still doesn't take away that hard right edge, that void, that abyss that we look into on the right side of the chart that hasn't printed yet. See, what divides the success stories from the failures is the comfort of embracing that uncertainty. And in the beginning, I was trying very hard to know everything and always know when I would avoid taking a loss. So I know what it's like for you as my students to want to ask me in a lot of different varying ways, but really the blunt question you want to know is, how can I trade, make money, and not lose? And as much as you may want to argue and say, no, that's not how I think, or that's not what I'm asking, you are asking that. That's exactly what everybody wants that. I would be lying if I said I didn't want it. So don't lie to me, okay? Don't lie to me, because I know I would love to know how to never take a loss. I would love to know that. But you have to be comfortable with choosing these conditions that are more apt to be correct for your model and your personal approach to trading. And that means you're going to have to submit to the idea that your model, with those parameters and filters in place, may not present the opportunity for you today or that trading session. And it doesn't mean it's a bad model. It doesn't mean you're a bad trader. It doesn't mean anything except for you're waiting for your model and all of the things and circumstances that go around trusting that setup with that model, with you as the driver, the operator in that system. So naturally, as a young man, you know, I thought he was paying for these Top Step funded account challenges on his own, but he wasn't. It was actually his older brother Caleb that was allowing him to purchase them, but he was the one that was doing it. So I told him, I said, you're going to have to do in the future, anything that you do it on your own. You have a job, and that money that you earn, you spend that, because then you're going to care more about it. If you don't put anything into it, you're not going to have that same level of concern about whether or not you're going to succeed or not. And I think that's the number one reason why most people that go to college and their parents pay for their college for them, they abuse it. They don't really take it, full advantage of what's been given to them, because it's a silver spoon gift. And I had friends I grew up with that were like that, and they never amounted to anything that they went to school for, and they don't live well. So I'm not saying that's the end result of that circumstance for those individuals to have that, but I'm not surprised when it ends up that way. So I make my children work because I want them to know what it's like to have a master, someone that tells them you can and can't. This is how much you'll get if you do what I tell you to do. If you don't do what I tell you to do, you will be reprimanded. You want to take evasion, it'll have to be approved first. And work with people that they don't like, and then develop these tendencies to want to impress them even though they don't like them. It's really crucial to have that, because once you do it and you grow a disdain for it, it will be the motivating factor that keeps your ass in the charts, so that way you don't stay there. It'd be very easy for me to say, here, Cameron, here's $1 million. Here, I'm going to go out here and get you a house. You already got a car. I'm going to give you some money in an account to live off of, so that way you don't feel a rush to get in there and trade. But he's not equipped. He's not equipped to do anything with that. So I've tried to do those things early on with my older kids, and it doesn't work. It doesn't work. It's the equivalent of, here, honey, I'm daddy. I'm going to pay for your college. Impress daddy. No, they're going to be kids. They're going to be reckless, and they're going to do things half-assed, and they're not going to care because they know daddy's going to take care of them. So the only way I could kind of like cancel that whole mindset And I'm probably not going to be successful on all of my kids with this. Okay. But that at least is what I'm trying to do. And because I don't have a book or someone that's come before me and did it this way and it worked for them or didn't work for them. It was a brainchild that I came up with, and this is what it is. But making them work is not a bad thing. It's something good. All of us had to do it. I had to do it. I had to work. I had multiple jobs. Some of you might have multiple jobs right now too, and you're trying to learn how to do this, and it's hard. It's really, really hard. It's hard to stay motivated because you're in debt and you're trying to keep up with the bills that you're accumulating, and everything's more expensive. See, he's protected in a way that maybe you as an adult with maybe siblings, or not siblings, but children, that you have to take care of. Maybe you have a one income family and you're supporting all that stuff. And they expect you when you come home from work to give them your undivided attention. But here you are listening to me and watching videos by me, and you're trying to look at charts and stuff. And they're looking at you like, why are you doing this? I get it. I had to do the whole thing too. But it's hard to keep the real life from pressing in and overtaking your pursuits. It's easy for it to be trampled down if you allow other people, your loved ones, your family members, to prevent you from putting in the time that's necessary to do this. It just makes it harder than it has to be. So I don't have all the answers for all that stuff. So I want to talk to you today about how my son, Cameron, is going through this, in my mind, the proper way of doing it. I am met with these teenage antics still. He wants to know the easiest short path to it. And I told him, I said, what you're really feeling now is because you tried to do this on your own without using anything I taught. You weren't willing to sit down and watch the videos. You weren't willing to do this practice of just looking at price and don't do anything. You were in a hurry to push the button. So this is exactly what I teach all of you. Don't be in a hurry to go out there and try to make money, because you're going to be doing so by pushing the button with ignorance. You're not going to know what you're doing. So what you're going to be teaching yourself and conditioning yourself is that because you know nothing and you have no experience to lean on, when you're pressing the button, you're the equivalent of going to casinos and gambling, where there's no way of knowing the outcome. There's no probability. There's no statistical edge there. It's pure gambling. And you're hoping for some kind of a lottery win to inspire you to do it the right way, when that wouldn't happen anyway. Because if you were to make money doing something on a whim, you're going to think that you're just lucky. So why bother going through all those videos and going through the process of back testing and journaling? Who needs all that stuff? All I got to do is get lucky once in a while. Over leverage and don't use a stop loss. And that's what he did. And he would blow it and go right in there and reset it again, reset it again, reset it again, 7 times. And then finally, he got to the point where he just didn't want to do it anymore. And quietness, walking around the house, not trying to say anything to me. And I told my wife, I said, I'm not going to bring it up, but I want to see how long he'll go without saying anything about it. And it wasn't until his girlfriend mentioned it. And I was like, okay, the ice is broken now. What are we going to do with this? Because clearly, where you're working, that isn't going to cut it. I don't think it's appropriate for you to have that type of mindset where what you're doing is it's normal for a teenager. While you're in school, he was homeschooled. You go to a coffee shop and you're working there. You're making $400 a week. Wonderful, $400 a week for a 17-year-old. It's spending money. I make him pay the car insurance for his car, and he buys his own gas. If he goes out and entertains his girlfriend, he must do that out of his own pocket. Everything else, I clothe him. I make sure everything that he needs as a member of our family, he has it at his disposal. But I make him work for the things that he has to spend for. So I'm not going to put money in his pocket to be a sugar daddy to his girlfriend. So all these things are meant to inspire him to be independent. That necessity for him he has to make it on his own. Well, he sat down with me today and we were looking at the markets. And I explained to him, I said, we're on the heels of the holiday, so the expectation is going to be rather light. Don't expect a whole lot of things to make a lot of sense. And he's like, well, I don't know really what I'm looking for anyway. And I said, well, we're watching price, and I want you to tell me when you think it's going to go higher or where you think it's going to go lower. And I want you to push the button right in front of me. I don't want you to second guess it. I want you to, in your mind, know what it is that you think you expect, not that you believe it's going to happen and you're not going to be right or wrong. It's what you feel, the impulsiveness inside you. What is telling you it's going to go higher or what's going to go lower? As soon as you push the button and you put a stop loss in there, I want to know where you think it's going and explain to me why you just did that. And we did this morning all throughout the lunch hour and into the afternoon. And a couple of the things that he did, obviously were way off. There was no reason for him to have done it. But I'm teaching him how to overcome fear of entering because he's afraid to do that. Now, sitting next to me, with me next to him, he didn't seem to have all that much of a uncertainty. He just, he was looking at it like it's a video game. Like I'm watching him play a video game because he could just re-up. In his mind, that's the mentality he had. I got dad next to me. If anything happens, I can do whatever I got to do to fix it. And I did it twice today. But his first trade, he got out and he went in, he went long, and he got $244 in the equivalence of, the movement. And I said to him, now think about this, son. If you make $400 a week average after taxes working your job, that's not a lot of money, but you just did $244 in one trade in less than 5 minutes. But you have to work all week and then wait till the following pay period to get that same $400 net pay. Which one makes sense? Because, well, if I could do this just, once a day, I said, that's the right mindset. Now, did you get 5 points in that move? No. Did you go into that move with, I have to get a big, gigantic run for the whole day? No. You went in and you were looking for movement. You're expecting volatility. So the way you overcome the fear of getting into the marketplace is you have to, number one, desensitize yourself. That's the only thing I had to do for myself was I had to go in and press the button. I simply had to do it. And I did it with live money, which is the worst thing in the world to do because I didn't know if I was going to be right or wrong. And I was gambling with money I couldn't afford it. Like I was borrowing it against a credit card. Yeah, how about that? So I was a cowboy when I first started, an undercapitalized goober that had no idea what I was doing and trading with cash advances on credit cards. So that's the epitome of a noob. So trust me, I've been there. I know what some of the silly stuff you guys have done, taking chances and trying to do what you got to do to make it work. But then when you look back, you really didn't do all the best in terms of trying to make it work. You were simply gambling. So I told him today, I said, I don't want you to walk away from the charts. I want you to be here until fatigue sets in. I want you to feel that. I want you to be uncomfortable. And I still want you to tell me why you're pushing the button. Why do you think it's going up? Why do you think it's going to go down? He had the classic scenario where he tried to buy it several different times today, and there was no fair value gap there. There was no reason for it to go up there, and he still would just push the button. And then we got into the lunch hour, and I could tell he was just mentally fatigued by it. He's like, I don't know what to expect, so I'm just going to push the button and see what happens. I said, that's what I've been waiting for. That moment right there, that's what blew every single combine that you tried to do. That moment, I want you to know what that feels like, because what you're trying to do right before you do that execution, that's your root problem. That's the thing that's going to keep popping up in your head, that's going to cause you to do that same impulsive tendency to push a button to find out. I want to do it right. And then you say, good job. Okay. That's normal. Every kid wants to have that moment with their dad. But really, what are you trying to do? Because I want to be right, because I did a terrible job of trying to do it before. And now you're watching me, like you're sitting right next to me, where I didn't do that the last time, Dad. I was doing it in my privacy, in my own bedroom. I'm pushing the button and nobody's there watching it. So it didn't feel embarrassing. I was mad. Okay. That's normal. That's absolutely normal. But you have to understand that these things that you're feeling are going to be very influential in terms of what you do going forward. Because let's say we get you to the point where you can trade and Dad doesn't need to be next to you. What are you going to do to unravel yourself? It's going to be these things. So you have to view them as, well, snares. They're traps. Okay. And there's no shame in identifying what they are and what they're triggering, bases or foundations are rooted on. That's the thing that you need to be aware of. Everybody has them. Everyone has them. Some of you listening right now, it might be the fact that you don't have a partner or a spouse that's supportive of what you're doing, and you simply just want to make money to prove it and shove it down their throat and say, see, this is the reason why I got to look at all these charts. I got to listen to this goober go on and on and on, listen to his rants, because this shit will work if I just submit to it. That's why you're doing it. You're trying to prove to them in an expedient manner that it's worth your time doing it, when they don't think it's worth their time waiting around for you to figure out whether or not you can do it or not, when they've already had it in their mind that you ain't going to be successful at it. So I understand how to balance all that stuff is very difficult. But he, as my son, he's got youth on his side. He has time on his side. But because of video game playing and the tendency to play these games, and when you get killed in the game, oh well, there's no time and no real loss. I mean, just respawn and there it is. Or I got to wait the time limit for the game to conclude, and a new game will start up. So that's the mindset that he has, and that to me is why I think viewing trading as a video game is the stupidest fucking idea anybody could ever employ, because it tricks you into thinking, well, all I gotta do is respawn. You can do that when you're doing market replay. You can do that when you're demo trading. But when you're trying to do something like a combine, if it's a funded account approach that you're going, or if you're trying to trade with real money, whether it be a lot of money or a little bit of money, those rules don't apply. You have to treat this like a business. When you go to work, okay, when you go to work, do they let the employees that you work among do whatever the hell they want to do? Now, maybe at McDonald's, they might do that shit, but they ain't doing it generally in a Fortune 500 company. And there's some structure there. There's some limits and boundaries as how far you can misbehave or waste time or be inefficient. And you are the boss. You're the CEO. You are the human resource manager. You're in charge of everything of you incorporated. So you have to have all of these hats as a trader. You're the analyst, you're the trader, and you are the person that is in charge of where you're going. You're you're it. You're at the helm, you're the captain, and you either sink or sail based on what you and your decisions result in. So if you go into it with a Mickey Mouse approach that, hey, let's see what happens, what they say, F around and find out. The longer you F around, you're going to eventually find out. And he found out rather quickly that he couldn't do what he thought it was. Oh, it's a video game. It's a video game. It's just like, oh, it's like that game, that snake game, because I used the analogy before. Slither IO, I think that's what it is, or something like that, or Snake IO, where this little snake you start out with, you go around, you get these little dots. Some of the dots are bigger, some of them are smaller. And as you eat these things on the game, your body as a snake grows larger, and you're not allowed to touch another snake. Or yeah, you can't touch their body, but you can make them run into yours, and then they disintegrate and you can eat them. Or you can't run into a wall or you die. So there's two simple rules there. The larger you get, the harder it gets. That's the same thing with trading. The things that you can do with a very small account, you can be very nimble with a very small account, less than 50,000, less than $100,000. You can do a whole lot of stuff with an account like that. When you start trading with $50 million and higher, you just can't do those types of things. You have to be a lot more reserved in what you're trying to do, and you got to be more aware of what you're trying to protect. In the beginning, it's a little bit of money. It's, oh, well, 2% ain't that much. It's not that much. So I sat down with him today. I said, listen, one of the best things you can do is appreciate the fact that your first trade, whether you were right or wrong about the reason why you didn't, I don't care about that. The fact that you saw and you identified that $244 is more than half of your net bring home pay per week at your job. So I want you to think about that when you go to work and you're looking around at the people that irritate you, the people that aren't doing as much as you are. You choose to be there because you haven't done the work. And I reminded him all the times when he was younger. I said, those videos are there. You watch them. And when you have questions, I will sit down with you. Nope. Video games was the only thing he was interested in sports. So I waited around. When he became of age where he can work, I made him get a job. He's had a job since he was legally allowed to do so. And now, because he has a girlfriend, because she's going away to college, she won't be here after August. So he'll have to wait for her to come home. She wants to be a veterinarian. And here he is working the typical teenager job. And he feels even more pressure on what he did not do correctly. So he has all those things swirling in his head. What happens when she comes home and he hasn't made any progress? I said, that's good that you think that, but don't let these things be crippling or a source of anxiety, because that in itself will cause you to do things impulsively. If you don't spend the right amount of time while she's going away to pursue her professional career, whether or not she makes it or not is irrelevant. She may get out there and decide that ain't the right profession for her. Or she may get out there and say, the hell with this, I ain't doing it. I'll just work a regular job. That's her decision. But you can't allow those things, just like you listening can't allow the pressures and stresses of your job. Or maybe you got fired. Maybe you've been made redundant and you don't have a job right now and you're between gainful employment. And that's stressful. In that event, you shouldn't be trying to trade. Just practice, because you're not going to do the right things in that state of mind, because you're going to try to do anything you can to make yourself feel better about the situation you're in and just feel like, oh, why am I worried about all this? I can make $1,000 in one day trading, over leveraging without a stop loss, and just get lucky gambling. You won't say it that way, but that will be the reality of it if you're right, if you're correct about trading in those conditions. So when I sat down with him today and told him, I said, listen, we're going to think about how a $50,000 account. I know you said you were going for that $150,000 account. Okay. And you were trying to prove to dad you were going to go on the internet and piss all over my trolls and like you have to defend me, which you don't. I want you to think about a $50,000 account. And I want you to think about 1.5% risk of that. That's the highest you can ever go. You can never go above 1.5%. Now, if you go out and look at these funded accounts, they allow you more than that. Not by much. I think it's like 2%, but I told him you are not allowed to go over 1.5%. Because if you go over 1.5%, you failed. In my eyes, I'm your dad. I'm telling you, you fucking failed. Not just, I messed up. You fucking failed. You took that on. You did it yourself. You chose to fail. It didn't happen to you. You chose it. The reason why he was blowing it, trying to do the 150,000, because he was trying to trade with the maximum amount of contracts. Just because they're offering it to you doesn't mean you should do it. So I sat with him today and I said, look, I want you to think about what 1% looks like on a $50,000 account. That's still more than you make all week long. What happens if you sit down and you make that in one day? How would that make you feel? Just one day? Yeah, one day. That's what I said. One day. What does that make you feel like? He's, oh, I would want more than that. I said, why? You're not making that right now. You work all week long around these insufferable people that come to the location where he works at. And where I live at, there's this snootiness, okay? That everybody thinks they're better than everybody up here. Okay. And it's, believe me, it's ridiculous. Like it's nonsensical the way they all act up here. And if you go into a place of service and a person's waiting on you, if you're going in there too and you're patronizing a place like, you know, where my son works at, he works at a coffee shop, it's a Starbucks. And it's just unbelievable hearing some of the stories. He comes home of the year and a half he's been, you know, it's just crazy here, these entitlement minded people. And they come in, they talk to you like, you know, you're less than human. That $500, if you could make that one day per week, you've replaced the whole need to go to that place. And you're not even pushing it hard. You're not even pushing it hard. You're not pushing hard to break the account. You're not pushing hard to feel like you got to keep up with some level of measurement. Somebody on the internet's doing this much, I got to do that. You don't have to look at my videos where I'm trading all those contracts and building up a large position. You ain't got to do $12,000. You ain't got to do 16 and 20,000, $30,000 days. You don't need to do those. You can get to those, but you have to grow into making $200 and saying, okay, $200. That's your whole week and a half right there with one transaction. That's how I got hooked on this. In the 90s, I got hooked on that because my pay was less than $300 a week. Bring home. And I was thinking to myself, man, if I could just do one bond trade per week and just get half of a point, if I could just get lucky enough to find 16 ticks on one contract in the bond market, that's $500. That's better than going to work. And once I do it, I don't have to do it again because I'm scared to trade, right? Well, that was my whole approach going in, easing into it. And I sat down with him, I explained this whole thing to him today. I said, I was afraid to get into it when I was in the 90s. I mean, it was exciting, but still scary. Like, I don't ride roller coasters. I think they're thrilling to watch other people go nuts and throw their guts up and scream and, you know, probably blow out an intestine and guttural, you know, screams as they go down the deepest part of the decline. But I would never get on those things. I don't like them. I have to be in control. I have to be in control of me, the environment that I'm in, and that is not something I would do. And I don't want to treat my trading like that. So I have to be very methodical about what it is I'm looking for. And the way I teach you as my students, I teach that same approach. We're not gambling. We're not inviting happenstance. Okay. So I told him, I said, you're going to trade until you get fatigued. And then as soon as you are like, you just don't know why you're doing it, you just push the button to find out, okay, what happens. That moment, you know, that's what I was waiting for. And I explained to him, I said, that's where everybody blows it. Everybody blows it. At that moment, it's because you have either hurt your account, someone has hurt your feelings or made you angry, or you're sick, or something cost you money that was unexpected. You are using that moment to replace some kind of negative thing that you're going through. Or maybe not even experiencing it yet, but you're afraid of it. You're afraid if something happens, it's looming in the offing. You know, what happens if my girlfriend? What happens if my wife? What happens if my husband leaves me? Well, I won't feel so bad if I can make $1,000 today. When really you'll still hurt because you have emotional commitment to that. Whatever that thing might be. It might not even be a relationship. It might be some kind of a, I don't even know. It could be a number of things. But a what if thinking scenario of something negative, something harmful that may happen to you could be a very triggering thing for you to get into a trade that has no real sound reason to be in it. And you're looking at it with the expectation, if it pays out, this is a better use of my time than sitting around worrying about something that may or may not even happen. And I have done that. And I have blown accounts in a 20-year-old mindset. I was fearful of a lot of things that never fucking happened. I had so many unrealistic fears. What if this happens? What if that happens? What if this happens? And none of it ever happened. It never happened. But they were so overwhelming to me at the time that it forced me to take on trades and take on risk, hoping that if I got paid out correctly on the other side of that trade, at least it was better than me sitting there twiddling my thumbs in fear of what may not or may come. The uncertainty of what if thinking is paralyzing. But when it's not paralyzing, it's the instigation to take you into a gambling environment. Think about it. I promise you, if you do some serious soul searching, you could go back to those times where you blew your accounts, where you've done serious damage and drawdown in your accounts. You've probably many times been in that same circumstance and not even realized it. And the only way I identified it is because I was journaling it. And these same circumstances kept coming up when I blew the account. These things were there. So they may, at the time, they don't feel like they're all that impactful. They're not the real problem. When they are, you're just trying to push them to the side. You're letting them be the guy, you know, when you're out there with your friends and stuff, like, hey, yeah, and someone looks at you funny. And your drunk friend says, hey, yo, this guy's giving you the eye, man. You gonna let him do that? It's nothing. It's no big deal. And you look over at him, he's just, you know, whatever. And then your buddy says, hey, keep that shit up. My boy's gonna beat your ass. Well, what did this happen? You weren't trying to do nothing. You're just out there having a good time, but your drunk buddy, Carl, fucking opened his mouth up. Now you're in a fight. You got to defend yourself when there was really nothing there. There was no real static there. That's what these types of thoughts will do for you. They'll put you in circumstances that you really aren't comfortable in. But because idle hands, you push the button. Because sitting still and not doing something when you're not disciplined, when you don't have self-control, which is something that you have to wrestle and form and forge over time. Nobody walks out in this industry and has self-confidence, self-control, and responsibility in the beginning. Those characteristics and those traits are developed over time. Losing money, making money, losing money, making money, learning what you're doing wrong, trimming all that stuff that is problematic. This is not a hard business to be profitable in, but it's a hard business to be organized and disciplined in. Because there's so many things that could take you right out of consistently profitable and wreck you right away. Because it's you as a person, you're a human being. You have emotions, you have psychological weights placed on you because of relationships inside this industry and outside this industry. And the more people you allow in your circle of influence, be it social media, your family members, your coworkers, the more you allow that in, the more likely you're going to be placed in pressured circumstances to perform when there's no need to. There's no need to. But when you step out there in social media and you have other people telling you what you should and shouldn't do, and you give these people that have no real control over your life, if you do it wrong, they're not going to pay you to make your ends meet because they wanted you to do something like it's a UFC fight or it's a sporting event. Perform for me. Fuck you. Go watch somebody else do that shit. You don't need to do those things for those people. You're running a business. Does the CEO of Netflix go out and go on social media? Hey, what should I do today? They're not doing that. Believe me, trust me. Look at what they've done. They don't do that. Okay, they make their own policies, and right or wrong, they're going with it. But they're not letting even their customer base tell them how they should do things when they should. You as a trader, you incorporated, you have to be in control of everything at all times. And you can't let these opportunities that will cause you to do reckless things, to invite you to do the most ill-advised things while risking money. That's like you would never jump out of a perfectly working airplane, but hey, the girl that you love says she wants to do it and she wants to have a moment in life with you. Now you're contemplating it. You're scared shitless, but you're still contemplating it now. Man, if I don't do it, what is she going to think of me? When it should have been, honey, that is extremely brave of you. And I hope you respect the fact that I don't have wings and I don't want to be up there challenging the outcome of me opening that parachute and then opening and carrying me down safely to the ground. I will watch in the safety of how you do that. And I will applaud you when you land safely. Okay. But I'm not doing that. And you shouldn't fear their response. They shouldn't push you into that. But what's really going to happen? You're going to be worrying about whether or not you do this or don't do this and how they're going to think, especially if you're dating them brand new in the relationship. You'll do anything. You'll fight a guy you know damn well you probably get your ass beat by him, but you can't look like a weakling in front of her. Get some beer muscles, some liquid muscles. Go get to the bar. And get, I'm gonna have to deal with this guy later on tonight before the bar closes. So let me get some liquid courage in me, and that way, if I do get my ass beat, at least I'm numbed up. You can't have that mindset in trading. You can't do that. Now, my son didn't go to those extremes, but I'm just talking because I want to have something more interactive than just simply saying my son, who has a video game fetish, that he thought that he was going to be able to segue right on into this and treat it the same way. When you're not making a living, you're not building wealth playing a video game, and you're not losing your home, your livelihood, your life savings when you lose a game, when you lose a video game tournament. Okay, big deal. It's ego and it's pride. That's it. But in this, you could lose more than you have put in. Things can go wrong real quick, especially in today's climate. All the things that's going around the world, man, it could cause real quick, sudden market movements, and your stop loss didn't do a good enough job. And now, where are you going to get that money from? If you're trading with real money, live funds, it can take more than you have. If you present the opportunities for it to do so, hey, perfect storms happen all the time. So I tell my son, I said, listen, think about 1.5%. Because if you can grow in understanding that 1.5% is what you can lose, that's the most you can lose. What should you do going forward? Find a way to chew into that 1.5%. Now, does that mean you go out tomorrow and try to make 1.5%? Or do you have to do it today? No. But think about how that fits in your life cycle as a employee of a working company right now. You're gainfully employed. You're only making $400 a week as a teenager. You want to grow. You want to be able to move away from the necessity of having that and make your own money. half of that with one trade, and it didn't even go to where you thought it was going to go. Just a small little move. Do you see how that's rewarding? And he's like, I never really thought about it like that because I just thought it was not enough. I was expecting you to say, okay, I want you to make this much. I said, no, did I tell you that today? No. But in your mind, you were thinking, Dad's going to need me to see this much in a return and this, that, and all those things were in your mind while you were doing each one of those executions, they weren't they? He said, yep. And that's exactly what everybody does. That's what makes it hard. That's what happens with these guys on YouTube. Some of them are honest and say, this is not easy. I got to get out here and I got to worry about this and worry about that. Right. You're making it harder. I love watching them. It's like, a gladiator. You're getting out there and you're doing something ass backwards. There's no war, but you're going to go out there and take on a fight. You want to be able to show the world that you can be a gladiator with everybody else having the benefit of being a heckler, talk shit to you, and that's in your head. And anybody that says it's not in their head is full of shit. So that to me, you're inviting more difficulty. I promise you, every one of these YouTubers out there that are live streaming that can be profitable, they would be so much better if they weren't live streaming. And I'm not saying they shouldn't do what they're doing. I'm saying that there's a way that we as individuals, as humans, we compound the difficulty. I know I did. When I was a younger man, I tried to do a whole lot more than was necessary. But my son was successful today in identifying that $244 when he makes $400 after taxes for a whole week of income, working in a place that he doesn't want to be at, around people that are conceited, self-centered, entitlement-minded. They look at him. They don't know that he's my son. They don't know how we live and what we have in our bank accounts and how we can live and do whatever the fuck we want to do. They don't know that about him. They see him as just some teenager, the equivalent of somebody that would be in a McDonald's, and give me my shit. So he's felt that now. He's felt it. He knows what it feels like, and he doesn't like it. And that's exactly what I wanted him to feel. Because now he doesn't have a college mindset, not that he ever had. He doesn't have a working man's career mindset. There's nothing wrong with that. But I didn't want my children having that. Because when you have that, you are owned. You are absolutely owned. You are not independent. You have to be given permission, and you're scheduled. Show up here, perform this job, better do it to my expectations or I'm getting rid of you. That's not what I want for my kids, and that's not what you should want for yourself or your children. But the only way for them to appreciate the necessity that needs to be really enforced with work ethic and studying is let them taste that shit. They have to taste it. Saying you don't want to have a job for for the rest of your life. You don't want that. You don't want to do that. Trust me. You don't want that, son. It's just going in one ear out the other because they have no real experience doing it. But when they see it and they live it and they can't be with their girlfriends, they can't go on a road trip with dad and mom. They can't do those things because they have a schedule to maintain. Truth be told, God's honest truth, there's been many times where I just wanted to tell this boy, go in there and tell them you're done. I'm not working today. I'll be back for my check whenever it's supposed to be. But if I did that, I'm not helping him. I'm not helping him prepare himself to be able to deal with stress, conflict resolution, work past something, and also defer what he wants to have and what he can have and much more than what he's aware of now, to defer that because he has to learn a skill set. That impatience factor as a teenager is still very, very heavy in him. And because we've homeschooled him, he has a different sense of freedom, where his girlfriend and many of his friends were stuck in that go to school at this time. And when you get out of school, you got to do homework or go to your job. And he's had pretty much freedom. Now, maybe homeschooling isn't a thing for you. Maybe you can't do it. But if you can, you should. But everybody has to have an employment of some kind, whether self-employed or working for someone else. And today he understood that a partial, that's more than 50% of what he's earning right now, with no real effort was really needed to do more than half of what he makes. And I told him, I said, I'm not saying that that is good or bad. I'm just saying, what do you feel about it? And when he didn't answer like I wanted him to, I told him, I said, do you not see that that's beneficial for you to not have to work so much in terms of time? And you didn't have to deal with anybody. And you got that. What happens if you just did 2 of those per week? And it didn't go to your full target. You didn't take the full position off, but you had something like that happen 2 times. Is that not better than your full week income? Yes. So why is that not something to start with? Because I was listening to you and I thought, no, 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 no. Why is it not enough? Because I want to make a lot of money. Right. Everybody does. Everybody listening to me right now wants to make a lot of money. Some of you have made a lot of money and you want to learn how to make a lot more. But you have to start somewhere and you have to have some kind of humble beginning. And humble beginning is not an embarrassment. It's nothing to be embarrassed about. And this is the reason why I tell you, stop inviting social media fuckwads into your career. You're at the early stages. Why would you invite someone to tell you what you should or should not do when they brought nothing to the table as a alternative with proof that what they're telling you to do is going to work? But it's human nature. Just like the water cooler in the morning when you get to work. You want to get there early, not because you love your employer. You want to get there so you can bullshit with your coworkers and listen to the shit that they're going to talk about. You want to hear them bitch about how their wife didn't let them go to the game. You want to hear them bitch about how they had to do yard work. And that way it reminds you, hey, I'm not the only guy that has to go through that stuff. Somebody else, all the guys that are living, in another household, another neighborhood, working in the same place I am, they're going through the same stuff like me. So I'm part of the herd. No, there is no herd mentality. You are an apex predator. You're outside the herd. You're picking these motherfuckers off. You don't want to be a part of the herd. You have to think differently. You have to behave differently. Everything in a herd gets consumed. They're food. Now, if you want to walk around like a sheep, like cattle, and waiting for your time to get picked off, and you're welcome to do that. And I told my son, I said, what are you? What are you? Are you a sheep or are you a wolf? What's it going to be? Because you can exist for a long time in this life as a sheep, going to work, letting someone tell you it's time to go over here, it's time to go over there. And you'll look at them as, oh, they're a good shepherd to me. They provide a good life. They give me a good job. I got a good job. Fuck your good job. I don't want your job. There is no job out there that I want. And none of them is good enough for my son. None of them are good enough for any of my sons. I don't want them working for anyone. I want them to be able to write the check that they want every week based on their own efforts, their own steam, and managing the risks and knowing that they may not get the win that they wanted. It may not pan out. They may have a loss, but it ain't going to cause them to go on tilt and just completely wreck themselves. But you don't know what it's like to think about those things in the beginning. The only thing you're thinking is all the upside. And the ones that are conscious about the risk, that keeps them from wanting to do anything because they're afraid. And that's where he's at right now, because he put money in out of his own pocket to do these resets. And he felt like that was recklessness, and it was. And he doesn't want to do that whole thing all over again and be reminded of it didn't work for him. It didn't work for him. Someone said, there's a way to do this. And it's going to be a lot harder now for you because you have this mental scar tissue. which is exactly why I was trying to teach you the way I was teaching you, so that way you wouldn't have these things. Just like when you are listening to me now in these Twitter spaces, just when you're watching those videos on YouTube, and I'm talking about the things that are outside the chart that you're going to have to deal with, whether you like it or not. They're conversations that you need to have, preferably before you get to that situation that I'm talking about. Because many times you're not going to have the skill sets or the coping mechanisms to get you through it unscathed. You're going to hurt yourself. And then you're going to go back and listen to a video. Oh, I wish I would have watched that video. I wish I would have heard that. You heard it. You're just in denial. You didn't listen to it because you thought you were going to be the exception to the rule, and you're not. All of us are human. All of us have frailties and issues with us. Mine, a lot more than some of you. But all of this can be managed. But you got to start with a very, very small, low-hanging fruit objective and be content with a little bit in the beginning. Because here's the thing. What happens if you could only just make $250 per trade? Think about it. What happens if that's the best you could arrive at? Every trade that you take, the best you could get is $250. Is that a failure? Now, some of you, especially the young men, be like, oh, come on, man, I ain't doing trading if it's just that much. That's exactly how I thought about it too. In 1992, that Christmas, I'm sitting there thinking, man, I gotta at least make $500 per trade, and I would not accept anything less. If it was a 400-hour win or I got stopped out and it was $375, I looked at that as a loss. In my mind, I treated that as a losing trade. And I was programming myself to expect and demand my full pull. And anything less was a failure. Now, who was I to do that? A dumb shit. Somebody that had no idea what he was doing. And I was brainwashing myself into thinking that profitability at any measure was counterproductive, wasteful, insignificant. And that's what you're doing probably with a lot of things in trading. It wasn't until I started understanding high frequency trading algorithms that their whole function was to go in and take very small bites of the market frequently, all day long. Now, when the developers of an algorithm sit down and they contemplate how they want to go in and engage market, they're not in there saying the trade has to be $500. They're not doing that. They are looking for small little snippets in price delivery that they know absolutely they can get dozens, not one time a day, dozens per time. I'm sorry, dozens per day. Think about that. Now think about what you're trying to do. Think about what you go into my content trying to squeeze out and say, this is what I have to do. That's not my problem. That's your problem. You're trying to present a feat, some outcome that may not be applicable for you in your understanding or your present ability. So go back to a simple approach to thinking, okay, if I could get $250, $250. You want to here's the fallacy in this, because when I first started understanding this, Larry Williams talked about this a lot in a lot of his systems. At the time in the 90s, he was wanting a trade or a model, a system, if you will, to be able to pay at least $350 per trade. Wait a minute. Did you just say Mr. Larry Williams, Mr. 10,000 to $1.2 million in the Robbins Cup in 1987? That guy said he wants to make at least $350 per trade, or he's not really interested. That means he's not even getting a full handle in the S&P back then, because it was $500 per handle. But because I was listening to that stuff, and it was a lot of number crunching, and it was very simplistic rules that made no sense to me, and many of them I still don't have any affinity for. but he had an approach that he wanted to take on, and it had to have this much in terms of back testing, saying it results and yields this much in terms of profit per trade. If you can find a setup that yields $250, that $250 can be scaled to whatever the fuck you want it to be. What's $250? That's 5 handles. What happens if you get 5 handles over the course of a week and that's all you got? Is that a bad week? Now, some of you jokers out there, this guy's talking about making $250 a week. Right. But you're the same person that's blowing your shitty ass account live on live stream. And we all watched you do it. $250 more than you had at the beginning of the week is still $250. If you were broke and had someone hand you $250, you'd be appreciative, right? If you just did that in the beginning, I'm not saying your whole career is this, but in the beginning, if you started with that mindset and all you were able to scrape out over the course of the entire week because you did not push real hard, because you know that you're not ready to do that. You might want to win a lot every day. You want to be able to trade every single day. But that's not realistic because you don't have the skill set to do that. And I'm reminding my son that he doesn't have to do this every day. He needs to tape read. He needs to execute in front of me because he needs to be conditioned and desensitized from the fear he has placed on himself because of unrealistic expectations being acted upon. He tried to do it his own way. Well, everybody in retail does that. Everybody does it. They read a book. They think they are going to go in and apply that stuff. Just like they do it with my videos too. Oh, I watched this video on order blocks. I watched this video on optimal trade entry. Oh, I watched the Silver Bull. I'm going out there and trading Silver Bull, and then read their tweets to me. Why is this failing again? Well, first of all, you're doing it wrong. Everybody wants to be in a hurry to go out there and do something to make money when you have to figure out what it is that you're going to do to mess yourself up. And that's why 1 year minimum is ideal. That's not what you want to hear, I know, but that's exactly what you need to hear. You can't figure this stuff out on a unique personal level, fast tracking it, trying to do it real quick. You cannot, it's impossible. Nobody's going to do this for you. Nobody. Nobody's going to shorten it for you. Nobody's going to make it easier for you because you are bringing the same bullshit that everybody else has brought into it. It's mental baggage. And social media brings more of that. Trying to stand out, trying to make I got to defend my mentor. I got to make myself look profitable. I got to be able to keep up with the people that are renting cars. All this stuff, it's all bullshit. And if I did not stomp on the throat of Cameron to tell him that that's not the right way of doing it now, that's the direction he would go. Because you know what started all this stuff is he wants to go out there and troll the trolls. And I told him, I said, you're already doing it wrong. You can do that, but that can't be the reason why you're doing it. That can't be the reason why. Because if that's the reason why, you're going to rush. You're going to rush to do something that is not needed. It's not needed. You need to develop a skill set because once I move on, if you want to live beyond what I'm able to live like now, you want to be able to earn a lot of money. This skill set can do that for you. But you have to grow over time. And you have to figure out what you think as a human being. What greed's going to feel like when you start feeling it, when you are profitable, when you're consistently profitable. That doesn't mean no losses. It means you close the week, you close the month, you're in gain, you're in profit. It doesn't have to be a lot. You're just not losing. There's nothing wrong with that. And I told him today, I said, I want you to see what it feels like to be at break even majority of the day. So when he wasn't getting it correct, I'd say, okay, buy here. And as soon as it gets above that level right there, I want you to close it. Do not use a limit order. I want you to feel it. I want you to feel it while you're in it. And as soon as I tell you go, you buy it. And when it gets to that level, you sell it. Sometimes he would sell it before it got to the level. I said, why'd you do that? Because I was afraid. Why did you not listen to me? You're not listening. 30 years of experience against yours. If you're not going to listen, you're not going to learn. And other times, he'd hold past the level and it would pull back on him a little bit. I said, okay, see what you did there? You had the right amount of gain, but you held on too long. Why'd you do that? Because I thought I was going to keep going. I didn't tell you to do that. And he would get frustrated and start getting antsy. I said, why? What are you feeling right now? I'm done. I'm done, Dad. I'm done. I said, no, you're not. This is exactly where you need to be at. This is where you will do what you did by failing at this multiple combines. That frustration, that feeling of, I need to do something to replace this feeling. That's where it all comes from. Everybody that ever blows an account is in that state of mind. And if they don't start there when they're in the trade that they know damn well has gone tits up and ain't going to pay out, they know they should get out and they don't. And then they're in that moment. They're in that mindset then. But they can't bring themselves to get out of the trade and close it. And I put him in those today. Lots of executions, lots of them. And we hung around break even. And I told him, I said, what's it feel like? He goes, well, we were up a lot. We were down a lot. And I said, what's a lot? A couple $100 here, a couple $100 there. I said, see, you're saying a lot because that's in relationship to what you earn on a weekly payroll. But the most you lost and was down was like $500. And you only went down there one time. But every time you went up, you'd come back down a little bit. And every time you go back up, you make a new equity high and you come right back down in the middle, hang around, break even, go back down, break even, go up a little bit more. And then I said, now think about what you're doing. All these transactions, do you want your trading to be this many trades? Because there's a lot of people out on social media that will show you at the end of the day, this is what I made. Look what I was able to profit today. But they don't show you the 50 transactions they took. There's nothing wrong with working your ass off to get out of something. You know, if you're really gung ho about trying to make a profit on a day, sometimes you're going to get into a market environment where you have to work a lot to get it to come out. Or if you go into draw and you do it wrong, you're human, you do it incorrectly, and you go into a losing trade, and then you try to get it back, and it's another losing trade. You have to stop or know that you can come out of it. And that's why I told them 1.5% is your maximum, because that 1.5%, you should now know you've made $544 today. Think about that now. If you can make that, that means you can risk that. You got to be able to go out there and find, like, algorithm and high frequency trading developers. They go out there and they look for a trade. It may be $100, may not be $250. But what they're doing is they're looking for something that they specialize in, that algorithm will go in and monetize a fluctuation based on this repeating phenomenon that happens all day long. And that same little tiny little piece, one little bite of price action throughout the day, done hundreds of times, thousands of transactions a day. They're pulling out money that you can't even fathom, because they're taking something with a cookie cutter approach, something that they can repeat over and over and over again. Every single one of the PD arrays that I've taught you are just like that. That's what high frequency trading algorithms that people have learned from me, they have used these things now. They can go out and find them on any time frame. That's why I went down into the sub 1 minute charts to tell you that this stuff is in there all day long. All day long. Oh, it's just a shitty market. It's not moving around. It's in chop. We're in some real chop. The chop's real, man. The chop's real. No, slicing and dicing on a sub 1 minute chart. There's still breakers and all that chop. There's still institutional order flows in all that chop on a sub 1 minute chart. You have to know where it's going to go. Even in a small little choppy range, if you want to call it that, you can anticipate what pool of liquidity it's going to go in that 1 hour. I can trade in an individual 60-minute range and beat everybody's asses on social media. And I said that, yes. That's not arrogance. That's just the facts. Because I understand what price is going to do. I understand how I can mess it up. And I can wait for those perfect instances where everything makes perfect sense to engage right then and there. And I know the times that hurt me. I know when it could look like there's an opportunity and it's really not there. Experience is going to dictate that. And I taught him today that there's going to be a lot of lessons that you're going to learn that are not going to be in my video. They're not going to be in our discussions. It's going to be what you have discovered about yourself. And you're going to find that you're going to excel in certain instances. Something just really revs you up. You see this opportunity. It makes so much sense to you. And you're not demanding it pays more than it would any other time. It's just a profitable opportunity. And you may not have the equity to do 100 contracts at the time when you start doing it. Start with one and you build up. And when you make enough equity to be able to do two comfortably and not go over 1.5% risk, then and only then do you do it. But every single trade that you make and put on, it's never to be taken where you can't at least get that same trade paid out to you at least 2 or 3 times in the same day. And I'll say that again in layman's terms for the folks that don't really understand or appreciate what I just said. 1.5% of your equity. If you can't find a trade 2 or 3 times intraday with that yield on individual basis 2 or 3 times, you have no business taking that risk on. Think about it. Because what you're doing is you're demanding that you find a needle in the haystack. In your limited understanding of the marketplace, in your limited experience doing it, in the most difficult market conditions I have ever been in, you, you're going to be the person that can just go out there and walk out there and do that. I'm sorry, but you won't. You won't be. So don't put yourself through it and discourage yourself through failure. Make allowances for yourself to spend a little bit more time learning how to do it. Do it the right way. So that way you enjoy the process. It should not be a draining effort for you to want to do this. And some of you, the way you talk in your tweets, it seems like somebody's twisting your arm, and it ain't me. If you're not having fun doing this, it's not for you, or you're grossly doing it incorrectly. Making money is the end result of you doing things, learning how to do it, and having fun having done it, but not being on an emotional high that you have to have a win all the time, or that you're chasing it like a high. And the only way you feel that or understand and appreciate it is when you lose real money. The people that lose real money know exactly what I just said, and it resonates with them. But if you've only been in demo, you don't even want, you haven't even came to the dance yet. You're a spectator, not a speculator. And as soon as you put risk on the line, it all changes. So you have to have some measure of experience that you didn't just get last week watching a 5-minute trainer, the cliff notes of something that took 30 years to be placed in your hands now. There's a lot of things that you're going to learn about yourself, and you're going to laugh when you look back at how you thought you were ready to trade when you were not. You were not. I know I wasn't. There's no shame in admitting it. There's no shame in it. But right now, you would never do that because it sounds like you're not smart enough. That would be like admitting weakness. And that's exactly what my son's struggling with right now. See, he's at the peak of his testosterone. He's he's at the height of his strength, his muscularity. He's in his mind at his present age, he's at the peak. And young men, you know what it was like when you were a teenager. You thought you could jump over buildings and nobody could kick your ass. You were the best looking person in the world. Every woman wants to be with you. Unrealistic viewpoints of yourself. And see, he did damage to himself. He did damage. And he bragged to his friends. He bragged to his girlfriend that he was going to do this and he was going to do that. And he couldn't do it. Now he has that. He's wrestling with that. And now because he didn't do it successfully, like he walked out and thought he was going to be able to do it, he's doubting. And doubt in a hurt, bruised pride in a man, that's dangerous. It'll make you do stupid shit. It'll make you do dumb stuff. So most of today, it was me just cleaning those wounds, reminding him that that's normal. Dad went through that. I did all that stuff. I did all that stuff and worse. And there was nobody here telling me this is how you fix it. So I was trying to find my way through it all and making it longer than it has to be. And it's painful. So when I talk to you and I make these conversations available to you, it's for your edification. It's so that you don't go through it like I did. So that way you can avoid it and appreciate that. You know what? I don't want to make those mistakes. I'm glad ICT went through it. I'm sorry he went through it, but I'm glad he went through it and he's telling me how I don't have to go through that. That's the wisdom in the student that's listening to me. Not this guy talks and he likes to hear himself talk. No, I don't give a fuck if that's how you think. Get the fuck out of here. You're not somebody that wants to learn. You're a clown. You will be broke. You will be working the rest of your fucking life. You will not be able to be profitable as a trader. So just get the fucking stepping. The people that really want to be here and make themselves a profitable student that trades and earns their own money, they want to know how they're possibly going to mess it up. And I'm not going to talk to you always in a refined manner. I'm live. I don't have a filter right now. So I'm going to feel the impulses and the emotional charge that I remember going through. It's all real stuff for me. I went through this stuff and it was painful. And it's painful to remember what it was like for me. And I know that some of you are going through it right now. And it's normal. And you can get through it. You can grow out of it. Use it like rocket fuel. It'll be the deterrent to never doing those same things again because you know what it's done to you. You don't want to relive that. You have now a reason to appreciate the rattlesnake that those circumstances provide. You know, walking into that situation again, it's like a rattlesnake's tail just shaking. You don't need to go back in there again. You know what it's like. So avoid it. Don't try to push and make money in those situations. Just relax. Take the day off. Take the session off. Don't do it. But ICT, I'm supposed to be an everyday trader. Who the hell said that? It wasn't me. So having a very, very low expectation of yourself. Yes, 5 handles is a wonderful target, realistic target. In the beginning, if you're absolutely scared to death, if you're scared to death of taking trades and you don't want to get into a trade because you're just afraid to do it, feel what it's like to desensitize yourself to go in and execute and put a limit order on one handle. Put a trade on. If it runs up one handle, it will close the trade out, and that's one handle. It's $50. It's not a lot of money. And if you do this over and over and over again with a demo account, you will get over the fear of entering. Then you add one more handle to it. Put on an entry, reach for 2. And you'll see, even with static price action, if you know where the market's likely to go, doesn't mean you're right. This means that this is the next draw on liquidity. This is where the obvious equal highs are. This is where they haven't been all day. Let's aim in that direction. And then put a trade on and try to go for one handle. And do that all day long. working with a 1-minute chart. It's not about how much drawdown you have. Don't worry about that, because if you're trying to measure that, you need to get into the pushing of the button and just looking for a small transaction. That's it. Over time, by gradually working into one more handle, up to 5, you'll completely desensitize yourself to the outcome. It won't matter to you because you've done it so many times, you're bored by it. You don't care. But think about what you're doing with your demo account right now. Think about what you're doing with your combine challenges. You're gambling. You're literally gambling. The whole time you're doing it, you're scared. You're anxious. You're hoping and praying you can get that certificate that says you're funded because you can't wait to go on social media and show it. But you're never going to show anything after that. Because chances are you probably will blow it when you get to the funded level. Nobody will see your payouts, certificates or confirmations, but you did something. You showed the world that you got funded. You passed the combine. I don't want any of my students thinking that's a success story. That's not. That's just, okay, you showed up to the dance, now dance. All these certificates, they're wonderful little hurdles for you to get across in the beginning. I'm not trying to minimize that. If you've never done it, wonderful, if that's where you're going to go. But you have to have some kind of vision beyond that. What are you going to do once you are funded? Because chances are you're not really responsible. You're not organized. Unless you're thinking like I'm trying to suggest to you in my teachings and lectures and here tonight. You have to have some measure of controlling yourself and thinking about things correctly. Don't just go in impulsively try to execute. My son, my own DNA, flesh and blood, there was no magic because he came from the fruit of my loins. Okay, there was no mystical, magical powers transferred to him. He did like anybody else would. Do the wrong shit. Well, here's your results. Impulsively tried to do something he wasn't ready to do. And now he has the mental baggage from it that I told him, and I tell all of you how you can avoid all that. So now he has to wrestle through all of that pride, that bruised ego, and concerned about what if he doesn't really still learn how to do it. You have no idea the impact that has on a person, especially a male. We are performance oriented, from sexuality to physical appearance to workplace, sports. We are all about measuring. It's all it is. It's measuring. And ladies don't think that way. And that's why they're better traders. So if you cause the damage in your psyche early on, you will carry that the rest of your career. You might become better at coping with it, but it never goes away. It'll always be that little limp, the little crick in your back, that little bum knee sensation you get when it rains. It'll always be there. When you do certain trades, it'll jog your memory of it. And then while you're in a trade, you'll be thinking about, man, that was a dumb trade. Is this going to be like one of those again? Are you focusing on that trade? Or are you worrying about and reliving and having a flashback moment and having a PTSD episode? As soon as you lose sight of your trade, in the beginning, not 30 years later, but in the beginning, as soon as you lose focus and you start having your attention somewhere else, close the trade. You've lost the plot. Oh, this guy just said close. You need to reward yourself for being disciplined. Discipline is not taught. You can't buy it in a course. You can't read it in a book and acquire it. You can't have a 5-minute trainer or Cliff Notes edition of anything, my stuff or anyone else's, and get discipline. It's forged through pain, struggle, and finding the outcome that is favorable that you couldn't identify or see at the time. And because over time you do these types of things, and you know what it was like to be going through it painfully, doing things that you shouldn't do, taking on more risk, taking on more contracts, because I know what you're thinking. It's the same thing that I've talked about, and my son lived it. They will tell you that you can trade up to 15 contracts if you use a $150,000 account. Sure. Sure, you can do that. And you're thinking, well, it's worth the risk. It's like a lottery scratch off. It only cost whatever it was. I don't even know what they cost to get the combine started. But what happens if it works, man? It's like a big shortcut, because if I can get the funded, something magical is going to happen. I'll learn how to trade then. It sounds funny, and probably some of you are laughing at you. That's exactly what you were thinking too. As long as I got to the funded part, then I'll know what I'm going to do. I'll pick the right trades then. I'm in a hurry. I just want to get through that first stage. And these funded companies are loving that. They're making lots of money with reset fees. You can do this, but you have to change how you think. You have to lower your expectations, and that's not a bad thing. Trade with one contract. Trade with one contract. And I promise you, this is what you're going to have happen. You're going to use one contract. You're still going to trade impulsively. You're still going to get in there because you want to have something good happen. And then you're going to go into drawdown. And that one contract, you'll have 3 handles, becomes 7 handles, drawdown. Stop. You can afford to trade more because the max loss day, whatever it may be, you're not there yet. Still, stop. Can you stop? 99% of you won't. That's a problem. That is a problem. Because if you can't control yourself and say, you know what? I can stop right now and I'll come back tomorrow. Even if this does move where I thought I was going to go today, or if it moves even way beyond that, it doesn't matter because you weren't in that trade, so you can't regret it. You weren't in that trade, so you can't regret it. You have to start somewhere, forging discipline, being self-responsible, and that way you know that you can control yourself in the future and you can trust yourself, because what you're doing, and you don't realize it, you're pushing the button in these instances with a demo account or in a combine because you know that you wouldn't be losing that money. If it's wrong, that money is not coming out of your bank account. It's not coming out of your live equity. So it gives you this false sense of security. And it's also, it feels like you have all upside, no downside, but you still have to pay for a reset. And you're paying in time. You're wasting time instead of just doing it the right way. Every one of these combines, every single one of them, all of you could do it in a month. All of you could do it in a month. But all of you want to do it in the minimum time. All of you want to do it in some guy's challenge on YouTube. Do it in this amount of time. How about make $5 million after taxes? Let's talk real money. Okay, stop with the Mickey Mouse shit. All these challenges, do this and do that. No. I'm teaching you how to be the best trader that you can be. And if you want to listen to other people tell you shit, you're welcome to do that. But that combine, whatever company you're using, every single one of them are Mickey Mouse level easy. They collectively understand that you are going to do what I've been talking about in this entire Twitter space tonight. You're going to be reckless. You're going to be impatient. You want to just get through that first step, that unprofitable, unfunded challenge, that contest. Who are you competing against? You. You are. You are competing with yourself. And when you blow it, who'd you lose to? You. So doesn't it make sense to figure out what the fuck you're doing wrong? And that's why I talk like this. That's why I talk about the things outside of the concept in a video. You think I'm talking about dumb shit. I saw a guy on one of the dudes that take my Twitter spaces, and it'll be in YouTube. He does it. There's a comment section of some goober. If you want to make money, or if you want to have more people watch your videos, you can cut the bullshit out and just get to the trading parts. Dude, you're listening to this. You are absolutely fucking doomed. You're never going to make any money. The fact that you don't want to listen to someone that has gone through it, figured out how to fix it, and has taught other people how to do it, and they're making fortunes because they have adjusted and did these things in their own trading. There is no shortcut. There's no way around these things. Whether you are met with it right now or in the future, every single one of you will come across this bridge in the road, and either you stop trading because these things are going to be in front of you, these problems that every trader has, or you learn how to deal with it on an individual basis. Like, you are going to wrestle with things that the next person isn't, but it's all the same things: uncertainty, performance anxiety, rushing, not being organized. And the top of the list, unrealistic expectations. My son went into it thinking, I'm ICT's son. It's going to be easy, like a video game. I'm going to be able to tell my dad, this is what I did. Bada bing, bada boom, it's done. Yeah, bada bing, bada boom, you got your ass done. It's over. Now you got to fix it. But now you have it harder because you have to fix all of that negative thinking. You got to cope with that now, which makes everything exponentially harder, but not impossible, but much, much harder. And when I talk to you this way, and most of this stuff is designed for my kids, I'm telling them how to avoid all these things. And two of my boys now have tasted this shit. Cody thought he was going to whip crypto's ass, and it whipped his ass. I told him to stay away from it, didn't listen. Okay. He's not trying to trade. He's sour by it. Doesn't want to talk about it. Doesn't care. Okay, I get it. He wants to be the owner of his stepfather's business, and he thinks he's going to be passed on to him. I don't think that's going to happen. But he's an adult. Let him do what he wants to do. Cameron tried to do it the video game approach. All wrong. Caleb, slow and steady. Not trying to be big, not trying to worry about getting out of his job real quick. Just real slow and steady. Real slow and steady. And he'll get there. I'm confident. I'm confident he will have all the traits that I want all of my kids and all of you as my students to have. He's not in a hurry to go in and tell his boss, I don't need to be here anymore. And because of that, he has the right mindset, and it'll carry him. He has no girlfriend, no social life. It's work, study, markets. That might not be for you. Okay. I already said I'm not for everyone. The markets are not for everyone. But there is no sugar-coated, cookie-cutter approach that you're going to be able to walk out there, start making money, have no problems, no issues mentally, no baggage, no drawdown that causes you to think recklessly. There's nobody teaching this stuff. They're all trying to entice you to buy courses, buy memberships, buy products, follow me, copy me trading. You have to deal with the realities of you're going to do it wrong. What are you going to do when you do it wrong? How are you going to cope with it? How are you going to get past it? I've been there. I've been there lots of times. And I thought I had it figured out way faster than I really needed to invest more time. But I had to discover this stuff going through it, patching myself up, stopping the bleeding, and working extra jobs when I didn't have a whole lot of free time as it was, just to get a little bit of money to start doing it all over again and making the same mistakes, thinking that I was going to get a different result. And many of you are doing that. even with my concepts. You're trying to force something that's not in the chart. You're trying to see a breaker. You're trying to see a fair value gap, a silver bullet, because you want it to be there. You're impatient. You're not waiting for it to form. You want it to be there. So you're going to look for it. And damn it, you're going to see it. They're like ink blots. They're Rorschachs. They're projecting what you want to see. And you're fooling yourself instead of understanding how to read price for real. And you can't do that quickly. I've never said that you could do it quickly. But once you understand how to read price and you understand how to determine where the draw and liquidity is, 90 fucking days, you apply that silver bullet, you don't need a job. That is not 90 days you can quit your job. There's people out there taking my comments and making YouTube channel videos saying I'm going out there and telling everybody to quit their job in 90 days. No, you have to at least know what price is doing apart from the silver bullet. Silver bullet's just a multiplier. It's a model that lets you go in and act on what you should already understand about the marketplace. You're not doing that in 90 fucking days. Okay. You're not. You will not. Okay. So that way we're understanding ourselves. But if you spent a year back testing and tape reading and you get a really good feel for what markets are doing and how they work from one liquidity to the next, look at the video I put up, One Setup for Life. I literally tell you how to go in there and use the previous session's liquidity. And for the folks that are asking me, can you teach the London session? Just look at the previous day's afternoon PM session. I don't know why you're making it hard. Like, that's what you do. That's all you do. Apply that in between the 2 o'clock and 5 o'clock in the morning, London Open Kill Zone. Whether it's Forex or futures, it doesn't fucking matter. It's the same stuff. Like, you are all complicating something I've made very simple because you're bringing something that you think is a mountain issue, and it's not. It's insignificant. But because of your impatience, because of the lack of discipline and self-control over yourself, you're making it something bigger. And it's the perfect excuse to say, I don't know how to do it, and it's not working for me. It's not profitable because ICT is not teaching me this and that. I've already taught it. But you don't want to put the work into it, just like my own son didn't want to. And he saw how that worked. And today he had a taste of it for real. And he's drained. Yeah, this is what it's like. It's like fucking boot camp. 6 weeks. You go in there, fluffy, full of fucking ding dongs and bonbons, and they whip your ass into shape in 6 weeks. You're salty as shit. You want to go out there and chew somebody's liver from their abdomen. Well, some people need to go through that to discover that they're their biggest adversary. They're their biggest problem. And most people will be quick to point the finger outside of themselves. Oh, that guy, that gal, that thing was not profitable because this and that. No, you just didn't do what was required. You have to step into that uncomfortable area of development, just like weight training, dieting, anything worth having and maintaining is going to require effort. And you are trying to learn the highest form of financial education on the planet. Think about what you're expecting. You think that you're just going to roller skate into this shit with $500, $100 account, and all of a sudden now you're fucking rich. This is not Instagram, okay? That's all bullshit over there. It's going to take you a lot more time, a lot more effort, and a whole lot more money than you're willing to put into it. And now there's other avenues where these funding companies are making it available to you. That resource, while it's available, it might be worth it. I'm not saying you should. It might be worth it for you to do it. But you won't beat it unless you're disciplined. You won't beat it unless you're organized. You won't beat it. You won't beat that combine if you do not have the right mindset and have control over yourself and say, okay, this is all I'm doing. This is all I'm doing. So you think 10 handle runs, 20 handle runs when I'm doing them, like, man, I wish I could do that. You know what you should be doing? You should be saying, I want to be good at getting consistently 3 handles. It's not even 5. Start there. If 5's too much, start with 3 once a day. And if you can do it, then start aiming for 1 in the morning, 1 in the afternoon. That's 6 handles a day. In 10 days, you could whip the shit out of that combine if you did that with 1 contract. You don't need to use their high end. This is how many contracts you can trade. You don't need it. 1 contract, you can replace what you earn at majority of what your present income is. Now I know there's some of you are 6-figure people that have careers and such, and God bless you for it. But the majority of folks in America don't make 6 figures. Majority of them don't even make 50,000 a year. It's sad. But you can make $50,000 easy as fuck. Even with that little $50,000 low rung funded account. That's what I told Cameron. I said, think about like that. 50,000, that's all you got. You can't get the 100,000. You can't get the 150,000. You got to make it work with the 50,000. If you don't trade more than 1 contract and you can replace your job's income, is that a failure? He goes, man, that'd be awesome. Right. So why didn't you think about that when you were doing the other shit? Well, because you want. That's the problem. You want. Wanting is the problem. You need to slow the fuck down. You have to slow down. All of that and more is available to the people that understand themselves, the markets, and the timing aspect. All of you know in the United States at least, what took place yesterday in our country. 4th of July, it's a holiday. So the protocol is expectations low. Now, we moved a lot in the morning, uncharacteristically. That's fine. But what did we have in the afternoon? FOMC minutes. Now, typically that's not a big mover, but it causes a little flurry of action. So, was today a easy day? Not if you're brand new. No, it's not. So if you felt overwhelmed, it's normal. It's absolutely normal. And you shouldn't be beating yourself up. If you lost money trying to do something today, learn from it, but don't beat yourself up. But it's easy to try to tell yourself, why bother? I'm going to fail. I'm never going to be able to do this. I lost money, blah, blah, blah. I was a guy I was talking to last week. I think it was last week or over the weekend. Keep saying, thanks for everything, ICT, but I lost too much money. I got to stop. Right away, I knew that the guy was trading before he should have. And I didn't want to, in Twitter, beat him up, but you know who you are. You rushed into that because you are probably overwhelmed in debt. You're probably overwhelmed with the pressures of the world and your personal life, and you need to make a change. Everybody has room to make change. But in this industry, you can't speed it up. Just because you need it, just because you want it, isn't going to make it manifest itself. Okay. I am not a believer of manifest it and it's going to appear. No, because if that happened, it would have happened for me because I was doing all that stuff in the beginning and it never worked. And working very, very hard doing the wrong shit isn't going to make it happen either. You have to know what you're doing and you have to know yourself intimately. That means all the ugly parts, the things that you never want to share with anybody else. That shit is the problem. And every one of us, every single one of us have those flaws, those triggering mechanisms that cause us to lash out in our personal relationships. We start fights and arguments and we don't realize it, but we're doing it. We're causing drama at work, online. If you go to bars or whatever, something happens in your brain before you got in that fist fight, either got your ass kicked or beat the other guy up. Now you're in jail. You're driving down the road, somebody does something, you get out and you kick and stomp their car in. Now you're getting fucking sued. All of us have frailties, character flaws. And nobody talks about the things that's going to wreck your ass in trading because it's not pleasant. Nobody wants to be reminded that we're all human, that we all have to wipe our ass. Yeah, that's the reality, folks. There's no sugarcoating in here. And if you don't have these realistic perspectives going into this, it's easy to fall into Instagram fanciful believing it's fairy tales and it's all going to happen for me magically. All I got to do is buy this guy's bullshit, sign up to his Discord, go into his horse shit. Nope. It's going to take a lot of effort. But I promise you, I promise you, if you do what's required, it'll be a whole lot less time that you're fearful it will require. See, you're thinking it's going to take 30 years. No. You're thinking it's going to take 6 years. ICT said it took him 6 years to figure this shit out. No, I had to figure myself out in those 6 years. I figured out everything I needed to know about the trading part in a little less than 3.5 years. But we'll call it 3.5. Just call it 3.5. But it's just a tad underneath 3.5 years. I had everything in my head technically that needed to be applied for me to find everything I needed to find for setups, endless setups. But I wasn't satisfied. I wanted to supercharge it even more, and I was pursuing perfection, and I created a lot more performance anxiety issues in myself, but trying to improve upon what you now know and what I'm sharing here. So it won't take you when you get there, when you arrive at your consistently profitable, comfortable zone where you don't need to do anything else. You don't need to tinker with it. You don't need to change anything. You don't need to watch anybody else's videos, mine included. You ain't got to watch anybody else's courses, books, none of that shit. You know exactly what you're doing tomorrow, the next day, 5 years from now, it's going to be the same show, boring. You go in, you make your money, you stop, you go live your life. That's what real traders do. That's what real traders do. They are not in here all day long, chained to these fucking computers. They're not doing that. They're not doing that, folks. The people that make money, they go in, they get their shit, they get done, and they go live their life. How many of you are looking at trading like that? Chances are you're not. You want to trade the London session, then you want to trade the New York session, then you want to trade the PM session, and then I hope there's going to be a move in the Asian session because fuck it, I got time. No, no. Which time of day works for you? London, morning AM in New York, or PM session? Forget Asia. You can't trade in Asia. There's not enough moves. Can it? Does it sometimes? Yes. But not, in my opinion, not to find consistency and find yourself out of your job. No. No. The volatility is too low right now. When the markets were really wild and we had these really 300 pip handle, not handle, but 300 pip ranges every day, this was years ago. Asia used to be really nice, but it's consolidated and it's a whole lot more quiet in that period of time. Even in the yen pairs, Aussie pairs, New Zealand dollar, they're usually the markets that are prone to be more active then, and they're just simply not enticing enough to do it. So what happens? What do you got to do, ICT? If the only thing I can trade right now is in Asia, then you need to make changes in your life. If you want this bad enough, you'll make the changes. And the efforts that you do in your back testing will give you the courage to make those changes. Don't just do it blindly. Show yourself with evidence that the things that I'm teaching you are in the charts, not because you did it for a week or a month. Really, really go in there and be highly critical. Do the things I tell you, show up in price action. When I tell you they're going to show up, how I teach you that they're going to appear in price. You're not manifesting shit. The market's going to design. It's designed. It's coded to deliver like this. If these things are in price action beforehand, in that time of day, you expect this thing to unfold, and then you wait for it to happen, and you do that week after week until you have months of experience doing it. Nobody's going to be able to convince you that what you have observed isn't the facts in reality. And you will do whatever you need to do to make the changes in your life. That means change your career, change your location, move, step down from how you live. right now. If you're single and you don't have kids, it's real easy to do that. But if you have a family, it's challenging. I'm not saying it isn't. But are you willing, if you discover that you can do this, but you have to make some changes that require you to go down in your living? You might live in a nice single family house. What happens if you go down to an apartment because of the requirements for money or moving to a different time zone? All of you are going to have different things, these different kinds of barriers, but they're not mountains that can't be passed. They're just speed bumps. And I'm trying to minimize it because I know some of you are going to have, but you, ICT, you don't know. It's easy for you to say. No, look, I'm not saying it's easy. I'm saying that I don't have a way of fixing everything for all of you. Remember, no sugarcoating. And you can't fault me because you live in a time zone and work a career and you have a family and you have a spouse that is not supportive. That's not my fucking problem. I didn't create that problem for you. And some of you send me emails bitching to me like I caused that for you. I didn't do that. I don't know you. But that's the level of mentality some people will apply to me as a mentor and think that, I'm somehow supposed to pull something out of my ass to fix that. I don't have a solution for those things. You're going to have to make those changes. So there's a lot of difficulty when you step into this industry, and it's intimidating. And if you start off on the wrong foot, even worse when you're told not to do those things and you do it, and now you have fear behind every execution. You have concern about whether you're never going to be profitable or not. It's easy to talk yourself out of it. It's real easy to talk yourself out of this. And I'm just reminding you, don't. Don't. I'm not making any money talking to you right now. There's no ads here. I want you to be successful. I want you to know what you're walking into is going to be very difficult because you're going to make it almost impossible. You are. You are the thing that's going to make it or break it. That's it. That's the way it works. You're not going to shorten the learning curve by anything. Nothing. I don't care what they put in their titles of their fucking videos. Nothing is going to shorten that learning curve. It is not going to happen. Whatever that you on an individual basis require is what's going to require. And you don't know how long it's going to take. But you have to show up with the expectation that I'm here for the duration. This lifestyle, this income opportunity is worth it. I don't give a shit how many months I got to do back testing. I don't give a shit how long I got to do tapering in the future. My outcome, my end result is I'm going to make whatever the fuck I want to make. And nobody's telling me how much it can be. Nobody's going to put a limit on it. Nobody's going to tell me I can't go on a vacation, go here and go here. Nobody's going to tell me I can't afford this. Nobody's doing that. Nobody is doing that. And I don't need to put a fucking resume together anymore because I'm not trying to get hired by anybody. Nobody can employ me. There's not a fucking job out there that can pay what I can earn in these marketplaces. That's what your mentality needs to be. Maybe not so much with the cuss words, but that's how it has to be, folks. That's how it has to be. You have to resolve in yourself, say, you know what? This is going to be hard. But everything that you do that leads you to that, once you get here, once you know exactly what you're doing and it never changes, once you learn how to ride this bicycle, it's your skill set for life. And where you want to pedal that fucking bike and how far and how high is up to you. Nothing limits that. Nothing limits that. Look around. Look around. These folks out there did not even use their own money, and they went into these other companies, did their processes, passed their combines, beat the shit out of the stuff they laid in front of them as a challenge, and they're taking down six-figure plus $500,000 now. And the companies themselves are interviewing them. Where's the fucking reason to doubt it? What's the excuse that you can't do it now? What is the excuse that says you can't do this? The ones that you're making up in your mind. The ones that you're saying, I just wish it was easier. I wish I could just do it faster. The folks that are doing it, I promise you, their fears, their biggest fear of how long it might take is a joke to them now because they are there now. They can do it. They know exactly what they're doing. They know tomorrow, next year, they're going to be able to do the same shit. And they think about the things that they worried about while they were going up. When they were working their ass off going through this stuff, they were thinking about all the things that you're putting in your brain right now as a reason to just quit. Why bother? I promise you, if you're listening, if you are listening and you've made money using the shit I've taught, and you felt this overwhelming fear, or I want to quit, or it's going to take me forever. Once you got there, isn't it silly how you thought and clung to those fearful things and held them close to you like they're best friends? You don't want to let go of them. Those fearful thoughts are perfect excuses for you to stop. They're excuses as to why you didn't succeed instead of saying, yeah, it's normal for me to feel this way. And when you get there and you make your money and you're consistently profitable, you're going to look back at that and see how silly that was. You're going to laugh literally out loud thinking, why the fuck did I think like that? But it's normal. But once you're there and you look back, it's like, that was dumb. Like that was wasted fear and energy worrying about something that wasn't even that big of a factor. I just showed up every day, did what I was supposed to do, and I'm here now. I can't I can't pull it back from them and say, oh, I don't like you. Let me take that information from you. Your abilities are now being revoked, like a license agreement. No. You learned that skill. You fucking earned it. You worked for it. It's yours now. Run with it. I'm just asking to share with me in private what you're doing. I would love to keep up with all of you. And the folks that do well, they do that. Some of them have stepped out there in the public's eye and they see it. You see it. They want to be bigger giants and titans in the industry. God bless them. I'm not trying to pull any of them down. I'm pointing to them. Look what they did. Look what they did. I didn't tell them those trades. They got in on their own. They pushed their accounts up there on their own. That's fucking awesome. And every single one of you have the ability to do this and more. But you're sitting around worrying about, oh, what if the market stops working? Who the fuck knows if it's going to stop tomorrow? Who cares? Why are you worried about? Well, all these people are learning your shit. I see the algorithm is going to change. I'm not changing shit. It's not changing. Why are you wasting time making excuses for your shit? Get out there and start working towards it. You might as well just roll over and fucking die if that's how you're thinking about it. Like, oh well, what's the point? I mean, I might as well just work this shit job and this mundane existence, because they might change everything. What if is the worst thing you could ever do? If it's holding you back, if a what if thought is holding you back, you need to flip that shit upside down and say, what if it doesn't stop? What if I get out there and I do it and I fucking make way more money than I fucking never thought I could? What happens if I do it in half the fucking time that I've been fearful it's going to require? Do that. Because that's the shit I had to do. I had all those fearful thoughts. I had all that shit. And I said, you know what? There's nobody here encouraging me, so I'm going to look at this like I'm a fucking underdog. The world says I can't do it. My friends and family says I can't do it. My wife left me. I'm fucking broke. I'm going to change shit now. I'm going to fucking do this. They said I can't do it. I'm going to find 81 fucking ways to do it. 81. I dare a motherfucker out there to say they got more fucking entry techniques than me. There ain't a fucking person one that can do that. I will tap dance every fucking day on these fucking markets and do whatever the fuck I want. Moonwalk out the fucking door. Profitable. There ain't a fucking thing I can't do in these markets. And when you know how to do this shit, you'll feel just like that. And if they want to say you're arrogant, fuck them. Fuck them. They're broke. They're fucking working. They don't give a fuck about anything that's successful because they can't fucking do it. They want to drag you down. I'm telling you, I'm grabbing you by your fucking hair and I'm yanking your fucking ass up here with me. Come up here. Come up here. You're laying around these low vibration fucking morons. You're listening to people that are fucking broke. They're broke. And you're taking this bullshit and you're listening to it and you're taking it and you're subscribing to it. And you're holding yourself back. For what? For what? You're afraid someone's going to say something bad about you online? Fuck these fucking broke motherfuckers. The people that are talking the loudest, they're fucking broke. They can't come here and cancel shit. Look at this fucking army we are. Look how many motherfuckers are coming up. This crop ain't done growing. We're climbing. Okay, everything that you're seeing around here, this community, even when I'm fucking slowing the fuck down, it's still gonna grow. Everybody's gonna be doing this shit in the future, and they're gonna say, you know what? This shit is the real fucking thing. This is the real shit. I wish I never would have done this. I wish I would have started sooner. Every person that's made fucking $500,000, $100,000, whatever the fuck it is, they've always said the same thing. I wish I wouldn't have listened to the bullshit that people say about ICT and his fucking concepts. I wish I would have started fucking sooner. I wish I would have blocked out all the bullshit because this is it. This is exactly what I was looking for, and I wish I would have started sooner. Everybody fucking says that. Everybody says that. Nobody that put their efforts into this then fucking started making money said, I regretted doing this. Fuck this. I don't like all this fucking money. I don't like this fucking success. I don't like this fucking continuity. I hate being this fucking calm going in the marketplace. I can't stand not fucking being able to be a consistent loser. I want to fucking just stay in bed because it's just the same thing every day. I go out and I know what I'm looking for and it happens. Does that happen here? No. Everybody's calm, cool. I'm the only one that gets fucking nuts. Yes, this is the first time. It's unfiltered here. I'm not supposed to be listened to with your kids next to you. But there's a whole lot of bullshit in this industry from people that don't make no motherfucking money. They can't produce a fucking millionaire student. Ain't got no profitable fucking students. They got a lot of chit chat, a lot of shit talking. Ain't done shit. Ain't no receipts, ain't done shit. And you're letting them, these low vibration fucking cretins, these little fucking waste of fucking breath mutants, they're fucking bringing you down. They're bringing you down. You want to be with them. You want to hang with them. I don't roll like that. I don't roll with fucking people that says I can't do something because I'm going to believe them. I'm going to agree with them and I'm moving. I'm not staying there. I'm not pitching a tent around people that says it can't be done. Tell me I can't do it. I'm going to find multiple ways to come back in your fucking face and say, here's this way I did it. This is the way I did it over here. This is the way I did it here. This. You got to motivate yourself. You got to stay motivated. It's not going to be easy. It's going to take a lot of effort, a lot of real effort, not just watching my fucking videos. I say it all the time. Watching them is not learning. It might inspire you. It may give you reasons to stay at it, but that is not to replace you going into your own charts, studying them, going to old moves. At the times I tell you when these specific models present themselves, go back in old moves, Forex, futures, commodities. I don't give a fuck what it is. You go out there and you prove to yourself. There's never been, ever, there has never, ever been a motherfucker ever came back and said, I went through all this stuff and I tried to look for it to fail and it's always there. It's never fucking happened. No one's ever came out and said ICT shit doesn't work with facts. It's never happened. Now you got some Tom, Dick, and Harry that wants to fucking try to get ad revenue on a fucking YouTube channel and ain't got shit going on in his life. Misery. He'll say all kinds of shit. And people like him will say all that kind of shit. But there's no actual fucking evidence. What do you do when you have all these people around the world, different walks of life, and they're coming forward and they're making real money? And not one company, every fucking funded company has ICT profitable students. Hello. Where the fuck is their students making money? Where are they making money? It ain't there. But you're listening to this bullshit. You're listening. You're entertaining that. You have to block out everything. Everything. Keep the focus on you. If you do that, I fucking guarantee you will find your model. And when you do, don't tinker with it. Don't add more to it. No matter what I teach in the future, don't do anything else. Accept the facts that sometimes you're going to do it wrong. Accept the facts that it might not deliver on the day that you try to trust it. It doesn't mean it's broken. It doesn't mean that you can't be profitable. It doesn't mean you're a terrible trader. It just means that you messed it up. You did. Own it. Come back the next day, the next opportunity. If you do that, you will be light years ahead of everyone else because everybody else will want to change. Oh, I tried this PD array. I tried this fair value gap and it didn't work. Let me try this breaker now. Oh, I tried the breaker, didn't work. I'm going to go ahead and do institutional order flow entry. Oh, it didn't work. Let me go back to OTE. It didn't work for me when I tried it the 3 times. I tried to call it experience and back testing. Nope. On the 4th time I failed to. Let me see. Oh, he's got something else going to teach. Let me look at that one too. That's not somebody that's really making a conscious effort. You need to be very diligent about doing these things and be very passionate about why you're doing it. If you're not in this to make a shitload of fucking money, then you're here for the wrong reasons. That's it. That should be the motivating factor. Lots of fucking money, because that's what's available if you can control yourself and you know what you're doing. If you can't do those things, manage yourself, your emotions, start with a low-hanging fruit approach and build up slowly, blocking out all the bullshit. And that means people that want to suck your own ass off. Like you get on social media and people like, oh, they love you, they pander to you, oh, you know, you're this and you're that. You don't realize how much of a impediment that is. Because once you start listening to that, and this is exactly what happened to me on America Online. That's why I don't like it. And I can't fucking stand you. When you say I'm the GOAT, the greatest of all time, I see that as you're a piece of shit, ICT. Because I think everybody that calls themselves a GOAT is a fucking piece of shit poser motherfucker that can't do shit. There is no GOATs. Okay? There's no GOATs. There's no greatest of all time in trading. I'm not a fucking king and ain't no fucking other king out there. Stop pandering to people like that. Stop worshiping them. Don't worship me. I don't need any kind of fucking attention. Just say thanks. That's enough. That's all it is. But when you allow that stuff in, or you start being a part of it, and you're glad handing with other people online, whether it be me or anyone else, you're literally doing all the wrong things. You're making it emotional. There's no reason for that stuff. I'm here. I'm a conduit. Whether you tell me you love me or you don't love me, I'm still going to be doing that shit. So it's not required. Okay. I'm going to be doing it. I'm still going to post videos. I'm still going to post the shit. We got until November. None of this is going to slow down because I don't have enough people calling me the GOAT. I don't want to be called the GOAT. It's important that none of you fall into that trap, whether you're doing it with me or someone else, or that you seek it yourself. Because as soon as you do that, you have now invited emotion, dopamine hits. It's not about that. All of that's going to be impactful to your decision making in trading. Because whatever you did, I'll paint this picture for you and I'm going to close this. Whatever you did that causes that social media response, oh, you're the GOAT, or that was amazing, or you're beast mode, or whatever, you're going to want to do something again when something creeps into your life, something bad, something uncomfortable. You don't feel good. You woke up with a bad stiff neck and you're just miserable because you can't get comfortable. I need to feel good about something. Let me get somebody to call me the GOAT online. Give me some reason to say I'm an awesome fucking trader. So you're going to go out there and you're going to try to create something in your account. Why? Because the trade's there? No, because you want to do something outside and external to why your model would be telling you to take a trade. It sounds simplistic. It sounds like, well, this is nonsense. No, this is exactly what people do, and they blow their fucking asses out. Their accounts are gone, they're wrecked, and they've ruined themselves. It all stems from something simple like this because you've invited emotion into it. And that's exactly what my son did. He wanted to come out and prove to the world that ICT Junior is now born, and here it is. He wants to go out and run around on social media, Instagram, Twitter, YouTube, and be a menace. He still might be, but he's got to learn how to be a menace in the charts first. He's got to be formidable in the charts. You can have all the, to want to do it right now, but without the skill set that can be acquired with time and effort, and a whole lot more effort now, it won't happen otherwise. Just because I'm daddy, ICT, just because he's my son, does not give him that built-in advantage. There's no built-in advantage. There's no advantage at all. And with me sitting him next to me, with all the things that's going on in his mind, I have to now arm wrestle him and make him conform in the things that he doesn't see as the right way now. Just like some of you probably already turned this Twitter space off because you think it doesn't apply to you. I guarantee you haven't made money if you did. The folks that turn this off are the ones that think that they can go out there and watch a 5-minute trainer video, watch some kind of horse shit, go in and watch my video, and they should be able to walk out and be profitable and pass a funded account challenge the first time and start making $20,000 a month in payouts. That's the people that turn off these parts of the video, or they don't listen to these discussions because they have their own head up their own ass. They can't see where they're at. They don't know the lay of the land. They've never been there before, and they believe the bullshit that's online. So, yes, it's difficult. Yes, it's intimidating in the beginning, but you have to have this approach that you're not going to stop. Nothing is going to deter you. Nothing's going to talk you out of it, you or someone else. And you have to guard your mind. Every single one of my profitable students will tell you the same thing. They have to at least cancel the influence of other people that says they can't do it, whether it's their friends or family, the coworkers, or people online that know them, or they completely cut it all off. That's not a cult. That's someone that's secluding themselves for intimate study. If you ever went to college and you were studying for your final exams, did you go and just study in a public space where there's a lot of noise and people can talk to you and do that at work? No, it would be unprofitable. It meant something to you. You had to put a lot of effort into that. Well, this is much worse than that because it's you. You are in the way. What you think you should be able to do, what you're afraid of, what's going to happen to you, what happens if this happens, what happens. You're worried about things that aren't there yet. And if you do the things I'm telling you to do and you develop a good work ethic and journaling, when you encounter the things that you're afraid of, and by hearing what I'm telling you to do and how to cope with all those things, they won't be so terrifying and scary. And the first thing you'll do is stop. It's not an invitation to go press a button. If you're uncertain, if you're scared, there's no shame in that. Stop. Now, there's going to be people out there on Twitter that'll say partials are fucking stupid and you trade like a pussy and they don't ever show you them executing, and they're going to give you every reason why everything I just said in this lecture tonight is counterproductive and counterintuitive. But I'm going to tell you that you have to reward yourself. Along the way, you have to do it. That means when you feel staying in a move and you're brand new, get out. It's so much better to do that and then see if it panned out in your favor and say, okay, I wasn't comfortable there. I got out, and it allowed me to have a clear perspective of what the market was doing because now I'm not influenced by the profit and loss of it. And then I'm now encouraged because if I just would stay with it, I'll remember this trade the next time. And then I'll try to stay with it a little bit longer. And you gradually grow into that. Nobody walks out there and does a full pull from entry, stop loss, and full target, no partials, and it just goes right to the thing. And they just did it the first time, and that's how their trades are the rest of their career. It doesn't work like that, folks. It does not work like that. And if it did, they'd be on there showing you executions and showing that they can do it, and they're not doing it. So anyway, I got that off my chest today because it was a little much for me to sit there all day and go through a whole lot of stuff that could have been easily avoided if you would have listened to me. But we're on the right path, and you are too. You just got to stay with it. Hopefully you got something out of this tonight that was helpful. Hopefully I gave you some encouragement. If not anything, I made you laugh and you had some entertainment value out of it, and that's a win too. Okay, so I'm gonna close this one. Wish you all a very pleasant evening, pleasant day, and until I'll talk to you next time. Be safe.